People still call me a witch, and honestly, I get why. For most of my adult life, I was very involved in witchcraft. Rituals, crystals, spirituality, all of it. But what they don't know is that I left that all behind when I found Christ. And now, I'm Catholic. Today, I want to share how that happened, the truth behind my past, the years I spent as a Protestant, and why I finally found peace in the Catholic Church. So first, let me tell you a little bit how I actually got involved in witchcraft in the first place. So I was raised in a very evangelical household. I was homeschooled. My mom really made sure that I was as isolated from the secular world as possible up until the age of about 13. I really wanted to go to public school. None of my friends were homeschooled, so I really wanted that socialization. I was kind of a square peg when it came to just going to school. Now, this was around 1993. Back then, a lot of the trends were like vampires, things that were goth, things that were kind of creepy and evil. This was just something that became really popular in the early 90s. I went straight to that. I always was very fascinated with things that were dark, and particularly the occult, because I had heard so much about it in a negative way. It just started to pique my curiosity, and that's kind of how this whole thing started. I ended up searching out different new age bookstores that had all different kinds of books on witchcraft, things like tarot cards, crystals, how different candles work, incense. Use these items and have intentions when you're using them. It's not meant to be used in a dark or evil way, but I did want to feel this empowerment of being able to be in control of my spirituality and things that would be happening around me. At that point, I started doing rituals. I started looking at the moon cycles, charging crystals, which is something where you take your crystals and put them outside during a full moon, and this is supposed to cleanse them and recharge them full of energy. A lot of this stuff, people are really into it these days still because it really seems harmless. You're not out there trying to do bad things to people. This is just kind of you connecting with the universe, you trying to bring good energy into your life and repel bad energy. These things have to do with protection and whatnot. Even though I was doing all of these things, I never really felt quite satisfied with any of it. I wasn't really looking that deep inside myself for why I was doing these things in the first place. I guess I just enjoyed doing it because it felt cool. Although I wasn't always practicing during my whole adult life, I was really into the goth punk scene. In that whole world, obviously, there's a lot of dark stuff. All of this occult stuff was just very normalized. In fact, everyone that I knew who did practice witchcraft, they were never bad people. I'd say something like, do no harm. It's really bad and dangerous to open up that door where you're starting to cast spells on people, for instance, practicing with Santeria or black magic. I'm not gonna go into all of the names and terminology of things because I don't want people to go and start searching this stuff. I'm sure anybody who's familiar with the occult has heard of Aleister Crowley. So all of my adult life, this is just something that I took part in. I really started getting even heavier into it. I started to attend really dark art exhibits where I would be featured in these art exhibits in Los Angeles, kind of doing satanic ritual. It was very like performance art. I was taking part of that. So it was definitely a step further from having crystals and incense and candles, and it started to go deeper and deeper, and it was getting darker and darker. At that point, I kind of started to feel that, where is this heading? In 2014, I decided to leave Hollywood for good and move to Oregon. I was not a Christian at this point. In fact, I was very anti-Christian, to be honest. Just wanted nothing to do with anything Christian. I met someone and he was Christian, which at first I wasn't really cool with, but I was trying to give him a chance. He attended this church, and one night we were supposed to hang out. He said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hang out tonight. I have Bible study." Well, how about I just come with you? And he was like, "Yeah, sure." I ended up going to this church, Athey Creek. I liked it. I actually had a really good time. But something going on inside of me, this sense of feeling lost. Like, what am I here for? What am I doing with my life? There was always this desire to have spirituality. It just wasn't being fulfilled. Being a Christian was completely out of the question. In fact, I felt like a heretic even entering a church, given all the things I have done and all the things I believe in. But that's the beauty of God. I think this was a very not random situation. It got me through the doors, that I could at least hear some of this message, hear some of the Bible, and not feel threatened by it. I had a good time at this Bible study, so I decided to come back again on Sunday with my boyfriend. I went a couple times and I started to experience things at home that really started to make me feel something I'd never felt before, and it was kind of scary. My mother had passed away in 2013, so this was something that was still really hard for me. I started to think about her a lot when I started going back to this church, thinking, wow, she would be really happy right now if she knew I was going to church. And all of a sudden I started to get these Bible verses popping in my head. I hadn't read the Bible in forever, since I was like a kid. I got this Bible verse, I was taking a shower, and it just popped in my head. It was Ephesians 6:10. And I was like, okay, what does this even mean? I still had these Bibles from when I was like 10 years old. And I looked it up, and oddly enough, it was highlighted in that area. Reading through it, I was really shocked. It was all about spiritual warfare, putting on the armor of God. This to me felt like a pivotal moment in my faith journey. I couldn't really deny it anymore. I started to cry. I started to really feel guilty for the life I was living, and started to really weigh heavy on me. And I didn't really know what to do. I wasn't really willing to just completely change overnight. But one day I felt God working in my life, and I decided to get born again. I was told that all I had to do was confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus Christ died for your sins, rose again, and that he's your savior. And so that's what I did. Immediately I felt this incredible wave of peace over me. I was just so happy. I was crying all the time. I just felt this huge weight lifted off of me. That was in 2016. I was 36 at the time. I moved to Tennessee in 2022. I was church shopping a lot. I was having a really hard time finding a church that was similar to that church. I was really confused. I felt weird. I went to like 5 different churches and I couldn't find one because I was like, well, I don't like the music at this one, or oh, that pastor's wearing skinny jeans, I'm not into that. Or, oh my gosh, this church is like a concert. There are fog machines and light everywhere. This is just too much. This other church was like borderline cult, tent, revival, Pentecostal, rolling on the floor kind of thing. That was too much for me. But then I ended up at my Baptist church, where I finally felt at home, and I joined the choir. And I also joined the praise and worship team. Little by little, I started to feel pulled away from my faith. I wasn't sure if it had to do with the fact that I was participating a lot in church, like being a part of the choir and the worship group. That took a lot of my time. And on Sundays, my focus was really on remembering the songs, practicing the songs. As I'm sure a lot of you have seen my video titled The Protestant Sermon That Turned Me Catholic, I was listening online to my other church back in Oregon, and that's kind of what I'd been doing. And I really didn't like the way he was talking. He was bashing Catholics and saying these things that just made Catholics sound crazy. After I started researching, I went and looked at the early church fathers. I started Googling things and researching things and trying to get some of these hangups I had about Catholicism, like worshiping saints or praying to Mary or praying the rosary, or why do you guys say the same thing at Mass every single time? Or where's the sermon? Or where's the praise and worship team? Like, just so many questions I had. I just didn't understand Catholicism in general. Just watching videos on YouTube, listening to apologetics, getting some books. It really just blew my mind. And I was kind of having this epiphany, like, wow, I feel like I need to be Catholic. This feels weird. Now I'm attending my Baptist church and everybody there is so nice. I started to feel very conflicted listening to our pastor say that, baptism is just a symbol, doesn't mean anything. I never took communion because I think they only do it like 4 times a year. It was just weird to me. And then I was like, oh, well, Catholics take communion like every day, or at least every Sunday. Okay, what is going on here? I believe that it's like really something. It's not just a symbol. So many things I had to like work through my head, but I did it. I'm a very critical thinker. I always want answers for everything. I want proof. And as some of these Protestants out here, and maybe you guys who are thinking about converting, all of the first things you say is that biblical? Where does it say that in the Bible? Can you show me a Bible verse where it says that? I was that person, and I see people commenting that on some of my videos now, and it's just really funny. But it's okay. I'm learning. So now I have to come to terms with my past. Yes, I was involved in witchcraft. I'm not proud of it, but I'm also not gonna hide it. My tattoos, my past, these are all reminders of the life that I used to live. But it's also a reminder of God's mercy. And I totally understand why people assume things. In fact, as soon as I announced I was gonna be Catholic, one of my Protestant friends accused me of being a witch and that I've always been a witch, and that's why I like Catholicism, because it's familiar to me. The next day he posted a meme as you can't be a witch and Christian, and then he put, unless you're Catholic. Okay, bro, whatever. The truth is, I belong to Christ now, and I don't have to sit there and explain that to everybody. I know that's true. God knows that's true. Shame used to silence me, but now I'm sharing this so that you know that you can always come back. Nothing you've done or the lifestyle you've lived should prevent you from having God in your life. If you've ever dabbled in things you regret or you feel like you've gone too far, you haven't. Christ's mercy is real. I am living proof that he can pull anyone out of the darkness. I'm not who I was. I'm Catholic, and I'm free. If you're going through something similar and you're curious about the faith, drop a comment down below. I'd love to talk with you about it. This is something that I was searching for myself. Before I became Protestant, I had a really, really dark past, and I still carry a lot of that with me. To this day, I'm trying to shed that part of me and not feel ashamed and feel like I have to keep it a secret. So if you like this video, please make sure to like it and subscribe to my channel so you can follow me along this journey. It's been great having you guys all come along with me, and I'll see you next time.